Ukrainian military command is monitoring the Russian army's preparations to intensify fighting on several fronts. This was shared by Deputy Head of the President's Office, Pavlo Palisa. According to him, this year, the Russian army plans to increase its group by 150,000 personnel, which is equivalent to about 15 motorized rifle divisions. The Russian army is preparing a new offensive, including in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions. Russian troops have already carried out minor incursions into the Sumy region earlier this month, seemingly aimed at bringing key supply roads under fire control. However, as there are fallen soldiers piled up along the border, it quickly became clear that any hope for the Russians to launch their own incursion was too far-fetched, Euromaidan press media outlet reports. Initially, Russian forces attempted to overrun Ukrainian troops by directly assaulting the contingent as they withdrew from Kursk. However, the Ukrainians had established solid fallback lines at the villages of Gogolevka and Rubanshina to secure their withdrawal, forcing the Russians into a three-day battle for the small settlement of Rubanshina, which massively delayed Russian advances. As it became clear that attempting to overrun the Ukrainians directly would lead to further failure, the Russians decided on an entirely different approach. Despite the larger part of the force having already successfully pulled back, the Russians still aimed to encircle and eliminate the remaining Ukrainian contingent in Kursk and Sumy, according to Euromaidan press. According to various estimates, Russian forces suffered up to 55,000 casualties during 5 months of intense fighting and multiple failed counteroffensive attempts in Kursk. Notably, these losses far exceed the initial deployment of 50,000 soldiers Russians had initially moved to Kursk to repulse the Ukrainian incursion. It means that Russians had to move an increasingly large number of reserves from other sectors of the front, amongst them even wounded soldiers, as well as rely on the North Koreans to push the Ukrainians out finally. Overall, the Russians attempted to achieve a breakthrough in Sumy Oblast of Ukraine and cut off the Ukrainian forces withdrawing from Kursk, but their lack of proper equipment ultimately doomed their offensive plans. With the Ukrainians having pulled most of their troops out already, the soldiers stand ready to repulse any future re-intensified Russian efforts into Ukraine. However, dead Russian infantry piling up on the approaches and forests leading into Sumy make the prospect of any large-scale Russian offensive into Ukrainian territory increasingly unfeasible. Amid Ukraine's retreat from Kursk, Ukrainian analyst Oleksiy Hetman claimed that Russia has deployed additional units, including mechanized brigades and artillery batteries, along the border in preparation for a major offensive. Currently, the forces stationed there include airborne, air assault and marine units. Most likely, they will try to advance towards Sumy and enter our territory from the north. Whether they succeed or not is another question. But they will make attempts, Hetman said.